the thing that was most amazing to me was I'd make something and people would say it was good. So it wasn't like I was just, it wasn't exactly just a hobby that I was making things that were like, oh, that's cute. No, I mean, these people were saying, yes, this is good work. This is like, this is art. It's like, wow.
Sculptor Lee Jordan stated, "My work is about feeling. Everything I do comes from a sense of self, the touch, the look, the emotion." Hey there, and welcome back, listeners, to Beyond the Palette. I'm your host, Whitney Rosenson, owner of Art Dimensions in Los Angeles. Today, I'm happy to be chatting with Lee Jordan, a fabulous sculptor, and I'm really looking forward to getting to know him better. All right, now for a bit of admin. Listeners, be sure to check out Lee's amazing pieces at artdimensionsonline.com and on his own site at leejordanart.com, which is LeeJordan. Feel free to join the Beyond the Palette Facebook group where you can ask me questions, make requests, and see fun videos with the artists I work with. Also, please toss us some stars and review Beyond the Palette if you can on Apple Podcasts. That's what really helps to get more listeners. Hi, Lee.
Hey there.
Welcome to Beyond the Palette. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you.
Good. I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you for diving into the podcast and for your time. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
Very cool. All right. How did you start your career as a sculptor?
It's a strange little story. My hands started to want to squeeze. And after a while, I decided that, I needed to do something with them and make something. And so I started searching for a sculpture class, a teacher. And it literally took me a year till I found one.
Till you found the one that was right for you.
He was amazing instructor, Robert Cunningham. I give him absolute kudos.
Oh, so nice. So how long have you been sculpting?
Over 30 years.
Oh, amazing. All right, let's go back a little bit. I know you've experienced or you've delved into digital art and some other things. So for those listeners who don't know who you are, can you give us a brief snapshot of your journey to where you are today?
I've been a graphic designer, and something else I do is I'm a sports official. I referee 4 different sports.
Oh, very cool.
It's definitely fun. And I've been carving stone and wood, as I said, over 30 years. And it's been quite amazing.
Do you always, and your studio is at your home, right?
It is.
Okay, which leads to my question. You said stone and wood. So what are your favorite materials to work with and why?
Stone is my favorite, definitely. I mean, in the past, when I was in class with Robert Cunningham, I got to do everything. I was welding, we were casting resin, my first piece I cast was a solid aluminum piece that sold. We've done, he knew how to do everything, and I learned so much. And then he moved up to Wrightwood where he is, and I just kept carving. In terms of my favorite medium, I guess I'd have to say marble. I work mostly with alabaster because it's easier, it's softer, and it's a little quicker to polish, to sand something, to finish something in the smoothness with marble. It just takes longer. It's not better or worse, it's just longer. So to move through pieces a little quicker, and also alabaster is lighter, and I have to move things myself. So
it's lighter weight-wise.
Yes, it is. Pound for pound. I mean, size for pound, not pound for pound. Pounds are the same, but the size of the piece, marble's denser, so it's heavier.
Right. Okay. My grandmother was a sculptor, and she sculpted in marble as well. So yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit later. To me, it seems like stone is very unforgiving when you're trying to carve it. But what do you think?
Well, I have had many a piece where I'm working away and it just breaks apart. And usually what happens when that happens, I look at it, I take a deep breath, I close the studio up, and I walk away for a day or two. when I get back to it, then I have to make a decision. Do I want to use adhesive and put it back together and continue working on the piece? Or do I have two separate pieces, and I've done both. It just depends on the piece and how it looks and, how I think I can move forward with them.
Great. That's great. What inspires you to create?
Well, it's a funny little thing. I grew up in this little town in South Jersey, and I would get you would see these little things about, draw this, be an artist. And I always thought I could do it, but I was too scared to ever do it. So I never did it. In high school, I took a couple of pastel classes, but really nothing significant. And then life came around and I went on, then I got married, had kids, and none of that happened. And then this whole thing with my hands, and I had time and I wanted to do it. And I just got inspired to go to the studio, to get into this studio. And once I started, it was amazing just to be there all the time and just making something that actually makes something that, the thing that was most amazing to me was I'd make something and people would say it was good. So it wasn't like I was just, it wasn't exactly just a hobby that I was making things that were like, oh, that's cute. No, I mean, these people were saying, yes, this is good work. This is like, this is art. It's like, wow.
You did it. You really did.
Yeah, exactly. And I was in my 30s, early 30s, I think, when I really started. So a late bloomer in that sense. And, you wonder is it just a hobby and you're just going to go out there and carve? Yeah. Or no, it turned into a career.
What or who influenced your art in your 30s? So that was when let's say you began your career in your 30s. Who or what influenced you then, and what influences you now? Or who influences you now? Or is it the same?
In terms of influences, I like all the turn of the last century, in like the 1900s. So like Brancusi, Picasso.
Henry, you mentioned Henry Moore earlier.
Henry Moore is interesting. His style is very distinctive and good. And these people, the people that you look at, these names, they're fantastic because the work they did is still fantastic. It's not just, I listen to some music and you go, yeah, the music's okay, but at the time it was revolutionary. And similar for art, at the time, some of it was revolutionary. And it turned out that later it's like, yeah, who cares now? Because, but a lot of the people that you look at as fabulous artists, their work still 150 years later is still fantastic.
Yes, I agree. You said in your artist statement, I just want to read one more line. You said, regarding Brancusi, Henry Moore, and Picasso, you said, they honor the form, they have a love of material, worship of the figure, and the abstraction of life. That's what you love about those artists.
Giacometti too. That was the one I was looking for.
Oh, Giacometti. Okay. So so I want to get into this a little bit. So the honoring of the form and the love of the material, that I understand. But when you talk about the abstraction of life and the worship of the figure, I'm picturing, a human figure and your love for the human body and its curves and its dimensions and all that. Okay, the abstraction of life. What do you mean by that? That's sort of a hard question, I know, but
to be out in the world and see something and then go home and make something from kind of what you saw, or feeling it through you and how it comes out, how you
experience it,
how it changes, how it becomes what you're making from what you saw. So you're the intermediary and creating this piece.
Okay, now I understand. Thank you. That's very articulated perfectly and very well. How do your emotions affect your sculptures?
I would love to be a political artist. I'm not. I sit back and go, God, there's these great political stuff out there. And what could I do politically? I can't think of anything politically. So I just continue where I am. My work, for me, it evokes passion and peace and a feeling of wanting to touch it, like touching it, like the stonework. A lot of it, I'll have a show and the people come up and they're all like real respectful and standing looking, and I'm going, no, you can touch it. And they go, really? And they touch it, and the stone, it looks like it's soft. It just looks soft. And when you touch it, you feel it, the hardness, but you can almost feel the softness in it too. And just the texture and the whole feeling of the piece is just amazing.
It's true. It's true. I'm picturing your piece called Rapture, which is of the human, a bust, right? Of a female bust.
Torso.
Oh, torso. Sorry, torso. Okay. So let's talk about some of the different series that you have. You've got the torso series, and you have your abstraction series. And what else?
Well, I kind of separated them out into a few different things. So I'll do the torso series because they don't have heads.
Right.
And then I'll do the figure series. I call it the figure series because there is a head and legs and everything. So it's just a way of kind of separating. So I don't have like one page with 6,000 pieces on it. There's a few different sections there, so people can
Yes,
wander
it's very
around.
organized. Yes. So you've got the figures, the torsos, the abstraction. Was there one other?
I don't think so. Then it's just the info is like the information about it, like shows that TV and films that pieces have been rented for, and collectors, and my statements, and things like that.
So I just want to mention again, it's leejordanart.com. Lee is how you spell Lee. And I just say that because a female spells Lee differently. So I just want to make that clear. It's a fantastic website. It's very organized. It's very user-friendly. So I encourage everyone to go check out Lee's sculptures on that. If you were granted $1 million for an art project, what would you do?
Actually, I have a piece. I did a maquette for somebody one time, and if I could only make it into a 3D projection, you could take it out and show people to sell it.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'll have to describe it to you sometime. But I would do maybe a big stone carving.
And you can collaborate. Would you ever want to collaborate with somebody?
Yes, I have collaborated a little bit in the past. Well, actually, part of my journey was I worked for 2 different companies that worked for Disney. So I didn't work for Disney directly. I worked for subs, and I was hired by them. So I worked on the Finding Elmo ride, where we carved foam, and so we did lots of if you go to if you go to Disneyland, not Disney World, Disneyland, Finding Elmo ride, some of those things in there I did. So you're carving foam, which is very easy to carve, and then the greatest thing about that is you make a mistake, you just glue it back together, no big deal.
It's not like marble. Right.
And then I worked on another studio where I worked on a pirate ship float for Disney. Again, carving foam, because these big events that you see, they're all made by these different subs, and they're all foam. So carving big in foam is really easy, and in a sense, that's collaboration. I was directed. This is what their design is, but you're working with other people.
Right. That's so cool. I'm picturing like waves, like in Pirates of the Caribbean, but there aren't waves in that ride. But that could be made of foam. But how old were you when you worked for the subs of Disney?
I was only like maybe 15 years ago or something.
Oh wow! So not even that long ago.
You'd have to look back and see when. If Finding Elmo ride was 20 years ago, then I'm not lying. I just didn't remember.
No,
so, it was just it was back whenever they did that. That's when I did them.
Okay. Well, I won't Google it. All right. How do you stay motivated to keep sculpting? You've been sculpting for 30 years, and you've got your studio in your backyard.
Yeah, and actually, I've started doing private lessons there.
Oh, how cool.
I was teaching at a studio in Hawthorne, and it was a great big space, 44,000 square feet, with subdivided into artist spaces. There were 110 artists, and the owner of the warehouse kicked everybody out. So they closed the sculpting studio, and I've been taking people 1 day a week so far into my space to sculpt and working with them, teaching them. Just started like a month ago. So it's brand new. And actually, one of the greatest things about it is the motivation. I'm working with other people and seeing, and their working is inspiring me at the same time. And, there's it's not a true collaboration in that, like, they carve a little, I carve a little. No, it's not that kind of a collaboration, but it's just the ideas and the energy collaboration that's really fun.
Beautiful. Beautifully said. Where can people reach you? How can people reach you if they're interested in taking a class from you?
Lee at leejordanart.com.
Okay, that's perfect. And right now it's 1 day a week, but you might branch out and start doing more.
I'm doing Tuesdays. I've also offered Sundays, but
Okay.
because it's in my yard, any day of the week, if somebody came along and said, "Yeah, let's do Friday," it's like, yeah, okay, fine. Friday. I mean, I know.
That's good. I like the flexibility.
It's just me here, so.
Okay, so it's Lee at leejordanart.com.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And what's your favorite part about, or your favorite aspect about being an artist?
I really like the carving part. Going in there with that, especially with an air hammer, you go and you're carving and you're working the materials, and carving is just, it's a blast.
Okay, what's the hardest part about being an artist?
Yeah, sometimes it's getting motivated to go out, and especially when, like, one of the recent pieces I just finished, I looked at it for months, and then I came up with an idea, and I drew it out on the stone. I started cutting it, and it didn't seem to be going anywhere, so I put it aside and left that for a while. And just every time I'd go back and look at it, it was almost depressing that I couldn't solve it. I finally did, and I'm very happy with the result.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, but so the hardest part is, maybe the design, if you don't have something coming in.
Okay.
Like, if I have an idea, like, I'm going to do your bust, your face, fine, I go in, I can carve a face. But if you just have a blank piece of stone, and it's like, what are you going to do? It's like writer's block in a sense. If people think of writer's block, like, what do you do? And a painter, you have a blank canvas. What do you do? You can go anywhere, but it can be tough because you want to do something. So for me, one of the things I hate is is carving a piece and having it be terrible, or at least I think terrible, because I feel like I've wasted a stone. The stone was there and I just didn't really do it justice. And it's not like painting that I can just paint over the canvas and repaint it. The stone's done.
I've asked a lot of painters if they get painter's block and how they work through that. So now, if you get sculptor's block, how do you work through that? So if you're looking at a piece of stone, I mean, do you always have a design in mind before you tackle?
No.
Okay.
Sometimes the stone, I start carving and the stone will just lead me through it. Sometimes the shape of the stone, because I have all these different shaped stones in my stone yard. I have a stone yard. It's amazingly, I have, like, I used to have 4 pallets of stone. So when I needed a new stone, I would just go out and pick another piece up.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I've got pallets of stone in my yard. So I just go out, but they're all different shapes. So sometimes the shape says, yeah, let's do this. And so I'll do that. Other times I do go in with an idea.
Okay.
And work on it.
Okay.
I'm working on a piece of chlorite now. I'm doing a bust, an actual bust, but not of a person. It'll be somewhat abstract.
What is that? Do you have a title for that one yet?
Possibly.
But you don't want to share?
Well,
you don't have to share.
Love Her Madly, probably.
Love Her Madly? Oh, very nice title.
I will tell you one of my secrets.
Yeah.
I listen to music all the time.
Okay.
A lot of times when I'm carving, especially, because one of the downsides is you're alone. And that's why having the people here that I'm teaching is always so nice, because there's communication. When I was at the studio, when I was learning, there were other people there, and we would talk to each other, and I would ask people for critiques, and they would ask me for critiques, and there was all that. So now I'm alone in doing this. So I listen to music, and I'm thinking, well, who is the best people to give me words for, like, a piece?
Oh.
The poets, the writers.
Right.
The musicians.
Yeah.
Like, I have a piece, Sitting in an English Garden, because the Beatles sang Sitting in an English Garden Waiting for the Sun. So it's like, there it is, and it's like things like that. So.
Okay. I didn't know that's where you got your titles. Yeah. That's so great. And Love Her Madly, is that a Doors song?
Doors, it is.
Yeah. Okay. See, I just aged myself. Okay. I want to ask you a few quick questions as we're wrapping up. These are just like off the top of your head. Your favorite season?
I like it warm, summer.
Okay. Favorite food?
Well, I'm Italian. Is pasta for sure, by far.
Okay. Favorite color?
I guess it would be a blue.
Okay. And you listen to music all the time. Favorite music to listen to when you're working?
Classic rock, Beatles, Doors, Hendrix, Janis, Stones. I could go on. Joni. It rolls. Allman Brothers, Cat Stevens.
Classic
How many more
rock.
do you want?
Okay.
although I have on my phone, I have 30 gigabytes of music, everything from classical to country western to Brazilian to Latin to
Oh, wow.
the majority is classic rock.
Okay.
But I put it on shuffle and it just whatever comes up, there it is.
I love speaking with you today. And I love the idea. I'm just reflecting for a sec, how sometimes you have a design idea when you're looking at a piece of marble or alabaster, and sometimes the stone will tell you which way to go. I
Yeah.
love that. That's your inspiration. It comes from, I mean, you're inspiring me just as we're speaking right now. And I think the listeners will be inspired too, because you're so innovative and creative, and you've articulated everything so wonderfully. So thank you for being here today. It
Well,
was
thank
so
you
much
yeah,
fun.
you're most welcome. It was very nice to speak with you.
Oh, you're welcome. Listeners, you can see more of Lee's incredible sculptures online. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Before we go, do you have an Instagram account?
I don't do any social media. Sorry.
Okay. All right. We'll follow Art Dimensions. And if you have any questions, anybody out there listening, get in touch with me and I can put you through to Lee. So I hope you all have a fantastic week and happy creating.